Your energy is all that you have. Your energy, the energy that you carry, is the only thing you have at the end of the day. So in other words, picture a scenario where you park on the street, and when you turn back up to drive away, your car has been stolen. It's not a question of holding yourself to a standard or being disciplined with your emotions. It's more so a question of, where is the opportunity in that situation? And it's not this false sense of optimism where it's like, oh, something bad happened and we're looking for the opportunity in it. And yes, that sort of is what we're saying, but a lot of people would hear that and think, well, we're looking for a consolation prize, we're looking for a silver lining. It's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is that in a scenario where your car is stolen, and let's assume in that moment, like when you first discover this, you have no idea if your insurance covers it, you don't know if you have the right plan. Hell, maybe you've never filed an insurance claim in your life. Maybe you don't have insurance, whatever the case may be. You have no tracker on the car. If you're assuming that that car is just gone, it's a lost cause, you have no way to be compensated for it for whatever reason, if that's the case, and you just assume that that value that that car provided to your life is just wiped away and it's evaporated, how do you react? Because the opportunity there, let's be very clear, it's a very real opportunity there. If you realize it in that moment, it doesn't mean you can't react for a moment in time, but after that initial 30, 60 seconds, you realize what's going on. It's like, wait a minute. You can give yourself permission. Not just permission, but you can realize, matter-of-factly, like, wait a second. There's nothing that requires me to be upset about this. Nothing. Because if you do get upset about it, what is the end result? The end result's going to be the same. And I'll tell you this, maybe sometimes it won't be the same, right? So let's say maybe in another scenario, you have something taken from you. Or maybe the best example you could come up with is very simple and generic. It's like you're at a restaurant out to eat, or you've taken your car to the mechanic, or whatever the case may be. And maybe you feel like you have not been cared for, or you've been wronged. And you feel like if you get upset, you can have the situation resolved. If you allow that emotion to shine through, and I'm not saying, listen, I'm not saying don't be authentic with your emotion. I'm not saying bottle stuff up. But what I'm saying is there is something that informs where your emotion goes. And if something happens where you feel like you've been wronged, you've been shorted, money has been lost because of someone else's actions, progress, time has been lost because of someone else's actions, if you're going to get upset about that, even assuming that your reaction and the subsequent reaction to your reaction winds up resolving the situation in some sense, the fact that the situation is resolved is not the only thing that's up for consideration here. Because for XYZ amount of time, your mind went to a different place. And I'm not saying that there's shame in that or that that's never okay. But what I'm saying is, in life, the only thing you have is the energy that you carry. And oh my God, it's really hot. And I don't want the AC on so you can actually hear me. But that's all that you've got. And so at a given moment in time, you never know when the person that's going to change your life is going to pop up in front of you. I'm not talking about relationships. I'm not talking about business. I'm talking about any number of reasons why someone could change your life. I'll give you an example. I met a guy the other day where I went to the park, not to do calisthenics, but I was there early, and there's a calisthenics gym there. And so I go to get a quick workout in and kill some time. And there are these two guys there. One in particular who was just really on his stuff. Like, he was really into the calisthenics, and he was really, really open and friendly. Both guys really were. But as soon as I walk up, I'm just getting ready to do a workout. I'm going to leave these guys be, let them do their thing. Before I can even get to any of the equipment there, this guy goes, "Hey man, you working out, huh? You get some calisthenics in?" And he's like, not just saying it as like a friendly, "Hey, how's it going? How, crazy weather, huh?" No, like, he was like actively making an effort to engage me in a conversation. And then we did talk, and he shared a bunch of things with me that actually I saw great interest in. He shared some Instagram pages, some resources online, for things that were not on my radar whatsoever. And I'm like, this is an awesome moment to meet like a like-minded individual, and to actually have a takeaway from it in such a casual interaction. And you never know when something like that is going to completely turn your life on its axis. And so it might be when you're at the mechanic shop and your car's getting serviced, and maybe they screwed your car up, but maybe also someone who's sitting in that waiting room with you has something to share with you, has some energy to exchange with you. But if I walked out there to that park that day in a horrible mood, I'm not saying it's the end of the world if I don't have this interaction. But what I'm saying is there is abundance in that. That is the form of abundance that's invisible, but is ever present for all of us, is this possibility to connect dots that previously went unconnected. And that is what is constantly happening in your life, is that every interaction you have, let's be very clear about this, every interaction you have is a test. It's not a test of your competencies, of your social skills, of your morality. It is a test of your energy. And the higher that your energy rises, the more that you get from interaction. So I'll give you a different example. In landscaping, I don't know if it's so much that there's a shortage of landscapers these days, in some sense, at least maybe a shortage of smaller companies that do landscaping. I don't know. The cost of labor in landscaping is so high. Like, my buddy was telling me the other day that there was like a 19-year-old that knocked on his door to do his grass, and he actually did, tell the kid, he's like, "Yeah, I'll have you cut the grass." The kid gave him a rate. He said, "Okay, that's fine." And he said, "What if I would want you to help me with other landscaping?" And the kid says, $65 an hour. So that's where landscaping's at right now. If you're 19 and you're willing to just get your hands dirty, you can make $65 an hour. Not that, my friend ended up saying, "Well, no thank you," but that's the standard rate this 19-year-old was charging. And so I have nothing against that. And I hear that and I only think, like, good for that kid, right? But at the same time, there are things to consider in the larger context of running a business like that. And this is purely subjective, but I know that this is real. It may not be that this is the way that everyone is going to wind up living their life, but I know that there's real value in this. There's no doubt about that. So when it comes to landscaping, generally you might charge an hourly rate, like $65 an hour, $50 an hour, $40 an hour, whatever. But also, you might give someone a flat price to plant X number of plants, to do mulch, to do whatever. But the whole game, and it's business, it's all fair game. I'm not saying it's not all fair game, but the whole game for most people is like, let me see if I can upcharge X amount per plant, make some money that way. Let me see if I can explain to them that I need to be compensated XYZ amount for my time, make some extra money on the project that way. Let me explain to them how much all of my equipment costs, throw in like a 3% fee to help fund equipment, throw some extra money into the project that way. And you end up in a situation where someone who landscapes, they might be able to be profitable by charging, $300 to $400 for a project that takes one day. But just based on market condition, they're able to charge $1,200, $1,300, maybe more a lot of the times for just a day's work. And again, I'm making no commentary whatsoever to say anything is wrong with that. If nothing else, there's so many things right with that. But what I'm saying is that there are different opportunities and different decisions. And the opportunity that's overlooked if you manage your business that way, or that is kind of superseded, the opportunity is this. You can go into a project saying, man, it is hot. You can go into a project saying, I want this to be as equal of an exchange of value as possible. So if $500 profit per day makes you, like, puts you in a super comfortable financial position, why would you then feel the need to charge $1,500? And I'm not saying there's anything moral about, there's nothing moral about this. I'm not saying that's an incorrect decision. What I'm saying is, if you're looking at it from a certain lens, that is just about the energy that you carry, the energy that you're giving off, because that is, again, a form of abundance. When you say, I only need to charge X amount, and it is more than sufficient. Because you can also assume, you can also build it into your mindset that there are higher and better opportunities on the horizon. More efficient ways to make money that will, again, be a win-win for everyone. But if you want to try to get there by playing this game of, like, how much can I charge someone and still have them take me on as their landscaper, again, I'm not moralizing this at all. Let's be so clear about that, because I would not judge someone for doing that. I don't see anything inherently wrong in it. What I'm saying is, when you do that, you are ignoring the flip side of the opportunity that you have when you have a customer that comes to you and says, I would love for you to do work for me. So a great example of this would be Alex Hormozi, right? He talks about giving so much value to your end customer that they just would never even consider going in a different direction, because it's such a common sense thing for them to go with your business, your service, your product, because it's that valuable to them. So, like, the initial way that he got started, Alex Hormozi, was that he had a chain of gyms. And the whole story of the chain of gyms is miraculous in itself, but we don't need to go down that rabbit hole. He started a chain of gyms. When he had about 5 or 6 gyms, he sold out of the gyms. He sold the business. And he started a new business called Gym Launch. Forgive me if I'm missing a step here, but he started a new business called Gym Launch. And Gym Launch was essentially this idea that he would go to different gyms and he'd say, hey, I can, like, I don't know, let's say double your subscriber base, your member base in the next 2 weeks. And he would just solicit people on the street, do whatever. I'm not sure exactly what his methods were. I'm sure he did all kinds of different marketing and sales throughout this process. But he had tremendous success with Gym Launch. And he would, like, bring in hundreds or even thousands of new members in just a week or two. And he would take commission from the proceeds. And there was one point, I believe, where he was in LA. And again, I might butcher this story a little bit, but you're going to get the general idea. There was a point where he was in LA. And he was about to leave town. He was finished with the business that he was doing. And he really wasn't in a great place, I believe. I think this was right after, like, something happened that started to mess up his revenue flow. A lot of gyms were calling him back and saying they wanted their money back because people canceled their memberships. In any case, he had someone call him who was begging him for his time. And he said, listen, man, I'm sorry. Like, I'm leaving town. I got stuff to deal with right now. I can't. I'm just not even in town. I'm getting on my flight. I'm out of here. If I could, I would, but I can't. And the guy says, how about just an hour of your time? And he says, well, I still can't. So this guy was asking him to basically perform the Gym Launch service for his gym, like a week worth commitment, or at least a few days commitment. And when Alex said no to that, the guy said, okay, just an hour of your time would do. I will pay you whatever. And Alex said, no. I'm sorry, I really don't even have a spare hour right now, is essentially what he was saying. And the guy said, okay, what price would it take? And Alex is just like, no, I'm telling you no, that I can't. I'm sorry. And the guy says, just give me a price. And so Alex gives him a price with the intent to just end the conversation. He'd give him a ridiculous price just to end the conversation. He says, okay, $6,000 for an hour. The guy says, done. Not even a hesitation. Again, am I butchering this story in some sense? Perhaps. I think I have the details right. I have them roughly correct. And when you think about that, it's like, wait a minute. $6,000 for an hour. And it didn't even require any consideration on the customer's end, because it was a no-brainer for them. That's how valuable his knowledge and his service was. And so the goal is to get to that place. Not to where you have to tell someone, oh, here's why you need this service, here's why you need me. Because at the end of the day, again, I'm not moralizing this at all for the 10th time. But there's a higher level to reach. There's a higher energy to carry, where you're not selling so much as you are telling people, I'm here. And you're telling them I'm here, not with flyers and posters and social media ads, although I know Alex does that as well. He does social media very well. But you tell people that you're there because your actions and your intent and the quality of your work is at such a place that it's undeniable, that it's inignorable, that it speaks for itself, and it speaks loudly, and it gets around. And that's not necessarily so much of an immediate goal to have about where you want yourself to be, but it's more so that, again, in a given interaction with a customer, with, hell, even if you're not talking business, with anyone, your interest in an interaction is you want that exchange of energy to be even. You want that person to walk away feeling good. Which, by the way, if you're at a party, sidebar, if you're at a party and you feel a little uncomfortable, you feel out of your element, you don't really know anybody there, the quickest way to get past that is to look around and say, who else looks like they're struggling? And don't go up to that person because they're a brother in arms and talk about like, hey, this is awkward. I mean, man, do you know anybody? No, go up to them, ask them about themselves, and see if you can make them comfortable. It's amazing how fast you will feel comfortable. So, same idea, is that in any interaction, your goal is centered around the other person, as if you were literally them. Because if we want to get real philosophical, we say you are them, but we're not going down that rabbit hole right now, okay? But that's where it goes. That's where it goes. And so when something is stolen, when somebody wrongs you, you're allowed, like, here's the thing. Forget the word allowed. People don't realize this is any type of a possibility whatsoever. It's always possible, always, for you to shrug your shoulders and say, well, whatever. I'm going to figure it out. This isn't going to be going on forever. Whatever is right in front of me right now, I'm going to figure it out. It's fine. It doesn't have to be a big deal. You can do that in any situation, by the way. Any situation. And when you do that, the boost that you get from coming to that realization that like all your stresses are fake, or so many of them are anyway, the boost that you get, like if your car gets stolen and you just shrug your shoulders and go, well, we'll just have to see what comes next. And you truly keep level and you don't mind it. You're just like, well, this is just something that happened. When you do that, you break into a new layer of reality. You break into a whole new reality altogether that you ordinarily would not have even imagined exists. It feels pretty good to be there. And so that option is there, but people just don't realize that option is there because they think, like, if nothing else, oh, well, it's fair to be upset. Oh, I understand why you're upset. It's not about that. It's not about shutting other people down and telling them you shouldn't be upset, because no one's saying that. But we do so much reinforcement in the opposite direction, where it's like, you're allowed to be upset. You're allowed to. Yes, you are. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And no one should judge that. But don't let that make you blind to the opportunity that's on the opposite end of that spectrum, where it's like, I can just decide, just because, for no reason other than just because, to be unfazed. To be unfazed. The same way when you wake up in the morning and you haven't decided what breakfast you want, and it's like cereal or eggs, you go, well, I feel like eggs today. Eggs it is. You can make that type of a decision. It's as simple as that. It's very matter of fact. When it's like something really big happens in your life, in your day, and you go, all right, well, let's deal with it. Whatever. It's all fine. I'm alive. Everything's okay, right? And so if you can really contextualize that, really process that, and get to that place where you're like, I kind of get this. I kind of see an opportunity there. The boost that you get from reacting to adversity that way is such that your life is better off having experienced the adversity immediately. Adversity always can be helpful, but the moment that it comes, it is immediately helpful. Your life is immediately fuller because the adversity happened. If you say, well, I'm fine. I'm literally fine. And we just forget that's an option. Like when something happens, like you're supposed to be upset because you deserve to be, because it's okay to be, because there's nothing wrong with it. And all that's true. It's justified to be upset. All that's true. No one's saying that's false at all. But just because that's true doesn't mean we should blind ourselves to what the other options might be. And so you're allowed to just decide to be unfazed. Because your energy, the energy that you carry, is the only thing you have. And that will propel you like this, like you're being lifted by a balloon. If you want to be propelled in a different way, by trying to control the circumstances around you, by trying to manipulate a situation in your favor. When I say manipulate, I'm not using that in like a super negative connotation. I just mean manipulate as in like massage things in the direction you want them to go. If you want to do that, fine. That's all fine. But you're going to be climbing the mountain like this, step by step, and you're going to be using a lot of energy to do it when it's really hot as well. And then you're going to fall. And you're going to fall because that fall is trying to teach you this ain't the way to do it, bro. This is not the way to do it. It's not this long, tedious clawing your way up the hill. No, that's not what we're here to do. Maybe it is for some of us. That's fine. that is fine. I'm not hating on that. I'm not going to get mad at somebody for living that way. But the opportunity is there to just rise. And to just let yourself rise. And to just go in that direction. Not with your actions, but with your mind. And when you move in that direction, it's the encounters that you have. It's the small, subtle little actions that you take that all add up and form this one puzzle where at some point or another, something crazy good is going to come out of that. And even if it doesn't, you already have the best thing there is on the entire planet. You are at peace. With every decision you make, with every step that you take, with every word that you speak, you are at peace. And all the other stuff that you do at work, investing, exercising, hanging out with friends, all of that is to be at peace. Is to be at peace. I know people always say, you can always decide to be happy now. And that turns into a cliche, and it turns into this thing that most people see as maybe not being that helpful. But think about it a different way. When something happens, you actually have the option to just fall in and relax and say, that's just something that happened. And it's not inherently threatening, because nothing is inherently threatening. The threat's up here, man. The threat's up here. So once again, the energy, say it with me, the energy that you carry is the only thing that you have. If you have that energy in the place that you want it, you have everything already. You have it all. And if you don't have that energy, you have nothing.